Ever wondered what 8 tons of cocaine looks like after it was discovered in this underground hideaway on a banana plantation near the Panama border?
From uncovering secret underground smuggling tunnels to pulling off a historic drug bust worth over $1 billion, we're diving into 8 of the largest drug seizures ever recorded. These jaw-dropping cases involve massive amounts of narcotics, high-stakes police operations, and the relentless battle against international drug cartels. Get ready to explore the mind-blowing moments when authorities intercepted shipments worth fortunes and shut down illegal networks operating on a global scale. Number 8. The Otay Mesa Tunnel.
Video taken inside a highly sophisticated drug tunnel that reaches from Tijuana into San Diego.
On a clear day in 2010, a remarkable discovery shook border towns between the United States and Mexico. In a daring drug bust, authorities uncovered a tunnel that stretched from Tijuana to San Diego. This tunnel, though not the longest or most elaborate, led police to one of the biggest drug seizures in the region's history. It is a case that still stands out among the 8 biggest drug seizures of all time. The story began when U.S. law enforcement noticed a semi-truck leaving a warehouse in San Diego's Otay Mesa area. The warehouse was only 300 yards from the border fence. With a mix of sharp instincts and careful work, immigration and customs enforcement agents decided to follow the truck. Their hunch paid off when they tracked the vehicle all the way to a Border Patrol checkpoint in Temecula. There, they found the truck hiding a shocking secret.
New details expected tomorrow on the drug tunnel that was just found at Otay Mesa.
10 tons of marijuana. The discovery did not end with the truck. The 2 people driving it, a husband and wife, were arrested on the spot. Law enforcement then returned to the Otay Mesa warehouse for a closer look. Inside, officers found another 20 tons of marijuana stored away. What caught their eye most was a large rectangular hole cut right through the warehouse's cement floor. It wasn't just any hole, it was the entrance to a secret tunnel. ICE. Special Agent Joe Garcia led the investigation inside the tunnel. Although the tunnel was basic in its design, it had everything needed for smuggling. The passageway dipped about 18 feet underground and stretched approximately 600 yards under the border fence. Simple lighting and a makeshift rail system helped move the drugs through the tunnel. The tunnel may not have been highly sophisticated, but it was effective in transporting a massive amount of marijuana. The tunnel connected directly to a warehouse in Tijuana, where the Mexican army joined the operation. In a building made of cement blocks and squeezed between local houses, Mexican forces found an additional 4 tons of marijuana.
This is video of a home in Tijuana where agents discovered a drug tunnel that runs to Otay Mesa.
This extra find increased the total haul to about 30 tons. For law enforcement in San Diego, this seizure marked the largest drug bust along the border at that time. Director John Morton of ICE emphasized the significance of this find. He explained that such a large seizure was a clear sign of a well-organized drug trafficking operation, likely run by powerful cartels. While Morton did not name any specific cartel, he stressed that this bust was a major victory for border security. The discovery of the tunnel and the marijuana hidden inside remains a striking reminder of the challenges faced by law enforcement on the border. This case is not just a story about drugs. It is a tale of persistence and sharp police work. It shows how a small hunch can lead to a major breakthrough, uncovering a hidden world of smuggling that stretches beneath the ground. The 30-ton marijuana seizure stands as one of the most dramatic moments in the history of border security. It continues to be remembered as one of the 8 biggest drug seizures of all time. Number 7. Australia's biggest ecstasy bust.
The nationwide crackdown on party drugs is having little impact on the supply chain. That's according to experts.
In 2018, Australian police made headlines by seizing what is now known as the world's biggest ecstasy haul, a discovery that seemed straight out of a crime thriller. This daring operation not only broke records, but also unveiled a dark and complex network of international drug trafficking that spanned continents and involved some of the most dangerous criminals. The investigation began after a tip-off led police to examine a shipping container that arrived at Port Melbourne on June 28, 2017. An X-ray scan of the container revealed something unusual. Instead of ordinary cargo, Customs officers and agents from the Australian Federal Police, AFP, found more than 3,000 tins. But these were no regular tins of tomatoes. They were hiding a secret. Each tin, weighing about 1.5 kilograms, contained MDMA tablets, the banned stimulant drug known as ecstasy. In total, the haul amounted to 4.4 tons, or roughly 15 million pills, with an estimated street value of 440 million Australian dollars.
15 million tablets of the drug were hidden in cans labelled peeled tomatoes.
This staggering discovery shattered the previous record set in 2005, when only 1 ton of ecstasy was seized in Australia. The case offered a rare glimpse into the cunning methods used by global drug cartels. The drugs had been smuggled in from Italy and were hidden among everyday food items. This clever disguise not only helped the criminals avoid immediate detection, but also highlighted the lengths to which these networks would go to transport their illegal cargo. The sheer scale of the operation was a wake-up call for law enforcement and communities alike, showing that even ordinary-looking shipments might hide a dangerous secret. The dramatic story did not end with the discovery of the ecstasy. Shortly after the container was inspected, another container carrying 150 kilograms of cocaine was found on July 24, 2018.
Now, police in Australia say they've made what's thought to be the country's biggest ever drug bust.
This second find led to a series of coordinated raids across 4 Australian states: Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania, and New South Wales. In total, 16 people were arrested as police dismantled a syndicate believed to be responsible for 60% of drug importation in southern Australia. The operation, hailed as the largest in the force's history, involved 400 officers and an incredible 185,000 phone intercepts that helped piece together the criminal network. The raids uncovered connections that reached deep into the criminal underworld. Among those arrested were ethnic Italian Australians suspected of links to the powerful Calabrian mafia in the New South Wales town of Griffith, a place known more for its orchards than organized crime. Additionally, figures associated with the notorious Black Uhlans outlaw motorcycle gang were also taken into custody. One of the most talked about arrests was that of Pasquale Pat Barbaro.
Earlier this year, Griffith man Pasquale Barbaro was sentenced over the world's largest seizure of ecstasy.
His name carried extra weight because his family had once been mentioned in a judicial inquiry into the 1977 disappearance of a prominent Australian anti-drugs campaigner. Adding yet another twist to the tale was the discovery of a money laundering operation worth more than 9 million Australian dollars. This illicit network was used to pay for the drugs, underlining how far-reaching and well-organized the criminal enterprise was. Local youths were reportedly paying high prices for these dangerous drugs, which only added to Australia's allure for global drug cartels seeking big profits. Number 6. Banana cocaine haul.
The shipment of bananas that included nearly $18 million worth of cocaine.
In December 2024, a shocking discovery was made at the port of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. In what may be one of the biggest drug seizures in history, officials found 9,500 kilograms of cocaine hidden inside a shipment of bananas. This case is not only remarkable for its size, but also for the creative ways drug traffickers try to move illegal goods across borders. The story began when customs officers inspected a shipment of bananas arriving from Guatemala. At first glance, the shipment looked completely normal. However, behind the scenes, something unusual was taking place. Hidden among the bright yellow fruits were 320 bags containing cocaine. The total value of the drug on the street is estimated at around $250 million. Such a large haul has stunned law enforcement and sent a strong message about the scale of modern drug trafficking. Authorities believe that the cocaine was meant for Europe. According to Carlos Denvers, a communications chief for the National Drug Control Directorate, many unknown individuals tried to transfer the drugs to another container that would be shipped on a vessel to Belgium. This bold attempt to hide a massive shipment of drugs shows how traffickers are willing to take huge risks to keep their operations running. The seizure is much larger than a similar event in 2006 at the same port, when only 2,580 kilograms of cocaine were intercepted. This drastic increase in the amount of drugs has alarmed both local and international agencies.
Police have uncovered more than 2.5 tons of cocaine.
The case is a clear sign that the Caribbean region is becoming an important route for smuggling drugs from South America to Europe. The Dominican Republic, with its busy ports and strategic location, has now found itself in the spotlight. The country's port of Santo Domingo is one of the largest in the region, and its role as a gateway for both legal and illegal goods makes it a key target for traffickers. This incident shows that traffickers are not only using traditional methods, but are also turning to everyday items, like bananas, to hide their contraband. Experts say that the rising use of cocaine in several Western European countries has contributed to these daring smuggling attempts.
Smuggling illicit drugs in fruit shipments is not uncommon.
Reports from the past year have shown an increase in cocaine use in countries like the United Kingdom, Belgium, France, and Spain. In fact, Europe accounted for about 21% of the world's cocaine users as of 2020. This surge in demand makes Europe a very attractive market for drug traffickers, who are constantly looking for new and creative ways to bring their illegal goods to customers. The discovery has led to a major investigation, and at least 10 people connected to the port are now under scrutiny. Early findings suggest that the bananas carrying the drugs had come all the way from Guatemala, highlighting the international nature of this criminal network. Investigators are working hard to trace the steps of those involved, hoping that by uncovering more details, they can dismantle the networks that make such huge seizures possible. This case is an eye-opener for many. It reminds us that even everyday items like bananas can be used for very dark purposes.
Have seized more than 2 tons of cocaine stashed in a shipment of bananas en route.
For the authorities, it is a call to increase vigilance and rethink how shipments are inspected and monitored. For the public, it is a reminder of the hidden dangers lurking behind normal activities. The incident has also raised concerns about the impact of drug trafficking on public health. In recent years, there has been a steady rise in drug-related deaths, with a notable increase in fatalities involving cocaine in places like England and Wales. Number 5. Afghan Hash Bust. In 2008, one of the most incredible drug busts in history unfolded in southern Afghanistan. Afghan counter-narcotics officials discovered 260 tons of hashish hidden in deep, 6-foot trenches in Kandahar province. A seizure so massive that experts called it the world's biggest ever in terms of weight. Imagine trying to picture 260 tons of hashish. To put it in simple terms, the amount was as heavy as 30 double-decker London buses stacked full of drugs. This discovery was not only shocking because of its size, but it also carried an enormous financial value. The hashish was worth more than $400 million. If it had made its way into the illegal market, the profits could have reached about $14 million. But instead of going into the hands of drug traffickers, the drugs were burned on the spot, erasing a potential source of massive criminal revenue.
Kabul residents welcome the UN study and want restrictions on drug use and trafficking.
The bust marked a turning point for the Afghan National Police Special Task Force. U.S. General David McKiernan, the commander of NATO's International Security Assistance Force, ISF, praised the team by saying that this find had seriously crippled the Taliban's ability to purchase weapons. The seizure dealt a heavy blow to groups that often rely on drug money to fund their dangerous activities. The success of this operation showed that with proper training and support, Afghan law enforcement could take a strong stand against the illegal drug trade. A Drug Enforcement Administration DEA official, Garrison Courtney, was equally impressed. He remarked that he couldn't recall any other instance where such a large amount of drugs was seized in one go. His words, "pretty huge," summed up the awe that many felt when they first heard of the bust. This statement underlines just how rare and significant this seizure was in the global fight against drug trafficking. However, while the bust of hashish grabbed headlines around the world, hashish was not Afghanistan's only drug challenge. The country is more famous for its massive opium production. In the same year, Afghanistan produced around 9,000 tons of opium, enough to make over 880 tons of heroin, which accounted for 93% of the world's supply. This huge figure shows that while hashish may have been the star of this particular seizure, the larger problem remained the widespread cultivation of opium poppies. In recent years, efforts to wipe out opium poppy fields have met with mixed results. Thanks to these efforts, 21 out of the country's 36 provinces had become opium-free.
Even though the UN reported that opium production was down 10% from 2021.
Yet in some of the most troubled provinces, like Kandahar, Helmand, Farah, and Uruzgan, the fight against drugs was far from over. Ongoing violence in these areas made eradication difficult and dangerous. In fact, during the spring eradication operations alone, 43 members of the counter-narcotics police lost their lives. Their sacrifice highlights the enormous risks that law enforcement officers take daily in their battle against the drug trade. Number 4. Elizabeth Espinosa's secret. On January 7, 2020, a routine patrol turned into one of the most shocking drug seizures in Florida. Trooper Derek Lewis was on duty when he spotted a red 2016 Dodge Journey with what appeared to be illegal window tinting. Behind the wheel was 27-year-old Elizabeth Espinosa from Ruskin, a small town just south of Tampa. Elizabeth explained that she was coming back from Texas, where she had visited a friend. However, she admitted that she had lost her driver's license a few days earlier.
Have you had your you said you haven't switched your driver's license address over?
This small detail raised a red flag for Trooper Lewis, and what followed would soon reveal a much larger story. As Trooper Lewis pulled over the car, he politely asked Elizabeth to step out and retrieve her key. While checking her information, he noticed that her explanation didn't quite add up. In his effort to clear things up, he radioed Trooper Chris Nottingham, who arrived with his K9 unit. The dog, named Flip, began sniffing around the vehicle. It didn't take long for Flip to alert his handler by signaling a strong scent that was far more dangerous than just a case of missing paperwork or a minor traffic violation. The officers soon discovered that Elizabeth's car was hiding a secret. While she was given a ticket for not having her driver's license on hand, the real surprise came when the K9 unit led the police inside the vehicle.
Trained police K9 is alerted to your vehicle.
Hidden away in clever spots, tucked behind the dashboard and possibly even in the undercarriage, was a whopping 26 pounds of cocaine. The amount was so high that it immediately made the news as one of the biggest drug seizures of its kind. Elizabeth's attempt to hide the drugs did not go unnoticed by the sharp senses of Flip and the careful eyes of the officers. In the back of the police car, Elizabeth's nerves began to show. She asked if she could make a phone call to let someone named Maria know about her children.
Hey, can you let Maria know to go for my kids? I just got pulled over.
However, the officers kept a firm hold on the situation, knowing that every minute counted when dealing with a crime of this magnitude. It was clear that someone trafficking such a large amount of cocaine should have had a more secure plan than driving a car with tinted windows and a lost license. The fact that the drugs were hidden so openly, as if they were just another piece of clutter in the car, made the case all the more unbelievable. After securing the scene, the police took Elizabeth's car to a nearby shop where experts could lift and closely examine every inch of the vehicle. There, even more drugs were found, confirming that this was no small-time operation. The street value of the cocaine was estimated at around $1.2 million, a huge sum that made clear the high stakes involved. With so much money on the line, one might have expected the smugglers to invest in a car that looked more ordinary. Instead, they chose a flashy Dodge Journey that quickly drew the attention of law enforcement. By the end of the day, Elizabeth Espinosa was booked into county jail on several drug-related charges. The evidence was overwhelming, and the case soon went to court. In the end, she was found guilty and sentenced to 24 months in prison, along with 36 months of supervised release after her time behind bars. Even then, the troubles did not stop for Elizabeth. She was supposed to report to jail on January 1st, 2021, but an earlier check-in on December 5th, 2020, followed by a later arrest for assaulting her boyfriend, further complicated her situation. When she was finally released in January 2022, it wasn't long before she found herself back in trouble with another arrest for domestic battery. Number 3. Record fentanyl seizure. In 2019, U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) officials made history with their biggest fentanyl bust ever. Nearly 254 pounds of the deadly synthetic drug were found hidden in a secret compartment under the rear floor of a tractor-trailer carrying Mexican produce into Arizona.
This represents the largest fentanyl seizure in CBP history.
This dramatic discovery not only shocked many, but also highlighted how creative traffickers have become in smuggling dangerous drugs into the United States. The story began during a routine secondary inspection. A scan of the load showed some anomalies that caught the attention of CBP officers. Later, the agency's police dog team alerted them to the presence of drugs hidden inside a compartment. Michael Humphreys, the Nogales CBP port director, explained that most of the fentanyl was in white powder form, with a street value of about $3.5 million. In addition to the powder, around 2 pounds of the drug were packaged into pills.
Nearly 650 pounds of illegal drugs were removed that consisted of more than 100 packages of fentanyl.
Along with the fentanyl, officers seized nearly 395 pounds of methamphetamine, valued at approximately $1.18 million. This bust stands out because fentanyl is incredibly dangerous. Even a tiny amount, comparable to a few grains of salt, can kill someone very quickly. The significance of this seizure goes far beyond the weight of the drugs. It represents the effort of law enforcement to stop shipments that could have led to countless overdoses and broken families. As Humphreys said, the seizure prevented an immeasurable number of doses from entering communities across the nation. Mexican traffickers have been finding new ways to smuggle fentanyl into the U.S. Most of the time, they hide the drug in passenger vehicles or large tractor-trailers. These methods have become more common as the traffickers try to avoid detection at border crossings, especially in places like Nogales, Arizona, and San Diego. While 85% of illicit fentanyl is seized at San Diego crossings, an increasing amount is being caught at the Arizona border, where the Sinaloa cartel plays a major role in controlling the drug trade. This seizure is not the first of its kind. The Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, reported that the previous record for a fentanyl bust was 145 pounds, seized in August 2017 in a Queens, New York, apartment connected to the Sinaloa cartel. Before that, the largest recorded seizure was 88 pounds taken from a pickup truck in Bartow County, Georgia.
This represents the largest fentanyl seizure in CBP history.
These records show a worrying trend. As law enforcement becomes better at catching drug shipments, the amounts being smuggled seem to grow larger. Doug Coleman, the DEA's special agent for the Phoenix Division, praised the bust as pure, old-fashioned police work. He explained that the discovery was not the result of high-tech intelligence, but rather the result of a hunch by an agent who pulled the truck over on a cold hit. His words remind us that sometimes, simple, good instincts and hard work are the best tools against organized crime. Number 2. Colombia's biggest cocaine seizure. In June 2016, police in Colombia pulled off a dramatic drug bust that stunned many people. Throughout several operations across the country, law enforcement officials seized 8 tons of cocaine, which weighs more than 17,500 pounds. This record-breaking haul is considered the largest cocaine seizure ever on Colombian soil. The operation was part of a determined campaign against a dangerous criminal gang known as Clan Usuga. Clan Usuga is one of Colombia's most powerful and feared drug gangs.
Colombian armed forces have captured drug kingpin Dairo Antonio Usuga.
The group has a long history of smuggling cocaine and engaging in violent crimes. Authorities in Colombia and the United States have both taken a strong stand against them. The U.S. Justice Department describes Clan Usuga as the biggest and most influential drug trafficking group in the country. In this major operation, police arrested 4 men and uncovered a number of weapons, adding to the significance of the bust. One of the men taken into custody was known by the alias Micolta. He faces serious charges including extortion and ordering homicides, and he is being investigated for other crimes as well. The discovery of weapons along with the drugs shows just how dangerous this gang can be. Photographs released by the police reveal hundreds of neatly packed bricks of cocaine, carefully arranged to show the immense scale of the operation. This bust was not only about taking away drugs, it was a clear message to criminals. The Colombian Defense Ministry declared it the biggest cocaine seizure in the nation's history.
According to the United Nations, Colombia produces around 442 tons of cocaine per year.
It is a reminder that the fight against drug trafficking is both challenging and important. The seizure of such a large amount of cocaine helps weaken the powerful networks that fuel violence and crime. Adding to the pressure on the gang, the U.S. State Department offered a reward of $5 million for any information that would lead to the capture of Clan Usuga's leader, Dairo Otoniel Usuga. He was believed to head a violent group called Los Urabeños, which is made up of former members of terrorist groups. Number 1. Pablo Escobar's 14-ton bust. In the 1980s, a secret world of hidden labs, fast transport, and enormous wealth was run by one man, Pablo Escobar. Known as the cocaine kingpin, Escobar built an empire that changed the face of drug trafficking forever. His operation was not only a source of huge profits, but also one of the biggest drug seizure cases ever seen. Deep in the jungles of Colombia lay a hidden laboratory called Tranquilandia. This was no ordinary place. Built in a remote area, Tranquilandia was a well-planned facility designed to make cocaine in large amounts. The lab had its own airstrips, water, and electricity. Workers lived in dormitories right on site, and the compound was guarded by a private army loyal to Escobar. This secret base was a key part of a system that would eventually bring in millions of dollars every day. Escobar's operation was so vast that it is estimated he supplied at least 50% of the cocaine that hit the streets in the United States. The way his operation worked was almost like a small country functioning on its own. Coca leaves were grown in remote farms and then taken to Tranquilandia, where skilled workers turned them into pure cocaine. The production process was complex and dangerous, involving many chemicals and secret methods to hide the process from the authorities. To protect the trade, every part of the business was kept under tight control. The money earned was huge, and it allowed Escobar to buy loyalty and silence from many officials and police officers. One of the most dramatic moments in this criminal saga came in 1984. The Colombian National Police, working closely with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration (DEA), managed to track down one of the key components of Escobar's trafficking network. After months of careful surveillance and detective work, they discovered a clever way that the drugs were being hidden. Inside chemical tanks, devices essential for the production of cocaine, smuggled cocaine was secretly stored. The raid that followed led to the seizure of a staggering 14 tons of cocaine. At the time, this haul was worth over $1 billion, a number that shocked the world and sent a clear message that even the largest criminal empires were vulnerable. This seizure was more than just a loss of drugs. It was a major blow to Escobar's power. The discovery and interception of such a massive shipment required both courage and careful planning. The police and DEA agents worked together, combining local knowledge with international expertise.
Airborne Colombian police, accompanied by a U.S. narcotics agent, began the raid 10 days ago.
They risked their lives in an environment where violence was common and the threat of retaliation loomed large. The success of this operation was a turning point in the fight against drug trafficking. It showed that no matter how secret or well-funded an organization might be, coordinated efforts by law enforcement could bring it to its knees. Escobar's methods were as ingenious as they were ruthless. He used a fleet of vehicles, helicopters, planes, boats, and even submarines to transport his drugs. These transport methods were designed to beat the authorities at their own game. For every law enforcement tactic, Escobar had a counter-move. His ability to hide his operations behind layers of secrecy and complexity made him almost untouchable for a long time. However, even the best hidden secrets eventually come to light. The massive seizure demonstrated that the fight against illegal drug trafficking was evolving. The success of the operation led to changes in how police and governments around the world approached the drug trade. New technologies and methods were developed to track the movement of drugs and intercept them before they could reach the market. For many people, Pablo Escobar remains a figure of mystery and infamy. His story is one of wealth, violence, and a secret world that operated under the cover of the dense Colombian jungle. The fall of his empire was a dramatic saga that affected millions of lives. With so many massive drug busts throughout history, which one do you think had the biggest impact on the war against drugs?